complain about something, you are basically victimizing yourself. Complaining is self-victimization. When you complain as a team, a group of people, you're all agreeing to self-victimize yourself. You're all agreeing to put responsibility on your own suffering onto something or someone else, as opposed to taking responsibility and making changes on your internal landscape to change the external landscape. The only way out of all these games is in. The only way out is in. So there are certain pockets of society, particularly in the Western world, where to engage with other people, you need to be complaining about something. To socialize, you need to complain. And you'll come across people, they don't know how to operate. You realize they don't know how to operate unless your social interaction is complaint. They only know how to operate on the level of self-victimization. So when you start to steer the conversation to something positive and creative and nurturing and beautiful, these people seem to become quite convoluted and confused. And it needs to change. We need to look at what we dwell on, what we think about, and what we talk about. People become so attached to their story, and it's their timeline, their story of self-victimization. It's the attention we get from being a victim. Like, I remember I was working in a restaurant, and a woman sat down, she told me she was a diabetic. And over the next 15 minutes, I don't know, I lost count of how many times she told me, because she kept telling me she's a diabetic. I realized she was on had a whole game running of receiving attention because she had a problem. So she wanted me to be like, oh, you poor thing, and soothe her and treat her special because she had this problem. And that's all well and good, but you realize that through our own self-victimization, we are trying to gain attention. That's our story. So we become so attached to our story if we've had a really negative childhood or really negative circumstances or car accidents or just completely gnarly tragedy. We talk about it a lot because of the attention it gives us, and this just creates this repeating reality in our life that we don't want to let go of. If you want things to become positive for you in the present and in the events to come, you need to make clear steps to let your story go and stop talking about it. Because when you talk about it, for one, you're still re-accessing those emotional states in your body. But you're, again, as I mentioned, you're creating the quantum reality where bad things happen and bad things are going to happen. So you need to really change the game on individual level. It's not up to anyone else but you. And that's the amazing thing, is once we go into our own healing and we go into letting events go, using plants or using different healing modalities, all of these games, all this victimization, all these stories won't exist for you anymore. And you can enter into a whole new reality where you literally have new roots. The traumas, the perceived traumas in your past timeline and in your genetics are all gone. Your body behaves emotionally and physically like they never happened. A friend of mine explained this in a different way. If there's a peyote button growing in the desert, you can go and cut the peyote button and take it out of the ground, and it's in stasis then. Its old root is there in the ground, and you can take it and you can plant it somewhere else, and it will grow a new root. Its old root will rot away and disappear into the ground. The old root doesn't exist for it anymore, and it's been planted somewhere else, and it's grown a new root. This is what we can do as people. We can grow new roots. And it's interesting when you mention things like that to people, because the resistance that some people come up with is that instant attachment to their own pain story. Like, no, I can't do that. That's not possible. I reject that idea. And that's okay. Both options are okay. There's no right or wrong. You can stay in the victim role and experience these negative realities, or you can let go. That's the interesting work with Dr. Michael Newton and the Soul Journey, is you are with your soul group, with your soul guide, you will nut out and brainstorm the next incarnation and the negative things that are going to happen to you. And you're going to try and get these negative things done and let go of, so in the next incarnation you can move to higher and higher states of awareness and lifestyle. So when we experience a negative circumstance, it's important to realize that we've chosen it. And it's important to realize and understand what we need to learn from it, what we need to go through and how to let it go so it doesn't have to happen again. If we don't learn, it'll happen again. This is why we're doing it. This is why we've chosen it. This is this idea of predestination, essentially, with these negative events, and then how are we going to cope with it? If you perhaps choose too many negative events for you, you might self-abort or kill yourself or something like that, and then you've got to go do it again. So it's an interesting line of inquiry, and that's those soul journey books, and what's been brought about from that, to really look at negative circumstances, something that you've chosen to learn from, and then let go.